I didn't read the novel until, I guess, a little over a year ago when Jesse Peretz and I, believe it or not, our kids go to the same school. So I heard about this project he was talking to me about, and so I read the book then. I had been a Nick Hornby fan years ago. You know, I really wanted there's not that many parts I really wanted that, I mean, there's a bunch I wanted that I didn't get, but none that really hurt. And I really wanted to be in About a Boy. The person I would compare to Nick Hornby would be Larry McMurtry. Larry's from another generation. He's a lot older, but it's a weird combination of being literary without being pretentious. It's, you know, completely readable. Anybody can read it, but it's human and heartfelt and sophisticated emotionally. I mean, Nick obviously has this correlation that there's always some kind of a rock and roll is spinning around his writing for the most part. But who knows, he's a young man and that may change. You know, this may define an era of his writing, you don't know. But it's very difficult in literature to have your own brand, you know, like there's a Larry McMurtry novel, there's a, you know, there's only a few people can define their own genre, and Nick Hornby's one of them. One of the things that made me feel like he was meant to do this is there's not that many film directors that were in a famous rock band, you know? I mean, I first met Jesse years ago in New York when he was just dropping out of the Lemonheads. It was always the word on him. He's this guy, he's interested in directing. He was in the Lemonheads. This world feels right, like a fastball across the plate for him. Rose is genuinely funny and beautiful and charming, and it makes her the perfect heroine for a romantic comedy. You know, I had a lot of fun imagining the music of Tucker Crowe, what it might be, and one of the first things Jesse asked me to do when we started working on this was record a couple songs of what we thought might be his album, his defining album. And, you know, people had their different ideas. I saw Neutral Milk Hotel a year or so ago, and I have friends that have always been obsessed about them, and they're dying. Where'd they go? Why aren't they recording music? Or I would often think of the character as kind of a J.D. Salinger of indie rock, but you know, it's been fun to think about. I remember Jesse always talked about his sound as being more like sound like Big Star. You have these preconceived ideas that you work on, and some of them, at first I was kind of like, yeah, I don't want to worry that much about the novel. I want to do my own thing and make my own relationship to it as personal as I can. And then I started finding myself going back to the novel, that I kept saying, well, this doesn't make sense to me. And I went, oh, now it makes sense. I would think, where's he from? Oh, you know, because there's a little different kind of, was he a Seattle guy? Was he a Chicago guy? Was he a Austin guy, a New York guy? You know, you just have to make all that stuff up, and then that intersects with what the filmmaker's doing, and it evolves. I've seen a lot of this country, but I really hadn't been to an English seaside town. It seems like an oxymoron, right? You know, like it just, of course, what's it, sunny like 14 days a year? I mean, it doesn't really make sense, really, English seaside. But it was fun shooting there. My feeling is Duncan and Annie are on their way to quiet lives of desperation, right? You know, that something was gonna blow no matter what, but I see the movie from my point of view, so who knows? I like to think that Annie and Tucker are complementary figures in each other's lives in some strange way, but we'll have to see when we see the movie. What's fresh about this movie to me is that it's told the way that Nick Hornby tells a story, which is just I really enjoy, and it fits inside an architecture that's really familiar, which is also what we all like, is a story, whether it's some kind of Shakespeare comedy of mistaken identity. I mean, there's only so many stories, but you know, there's something archetypal about the comedy of a love affair that's reached a stagnant place, and then chaos enters and, you know, peace is found. It's the essence of my character, is what makes him available for all this, is he's finally showing up as a father. So if he's showing up as a father, then maybe there's a future for him to show up as a boyfriend. You know, and it's a big part of my life, being a parent, so I love playing dads. The fun about making a movie is that you really don't know how it's going to come together. When something good happens in a movie, it becomes larger than the sum of the parts. And when something bad happens, it seems like it's so bad. How did anybody ever think that was good? But my suspicion is that, I don't know, I've really enjoyed working on this movie, and I want it to work for people.